Hey guys, Mike here at Royal Productions, and welcome to the next video in my kind of series of streamed, screen captured videos for you here on YouTube. Today is the 6th of December, and I'm really pleased for one or two reasons. Firstly, this is my first kind of demo or walkthrough of one of my scores within Logic Pro X. I showed you guys some template stuff of this same score a while back, but it wasn't finished at that point. I was kind of composing the score whilst getting my templates in order, so some things were kind of mucking up and not going quite well as I hoped. But now those are all ironed out, and I'm really pleased. I'm loving Logic, a very colourful program which I really like. It's a really nice UI to work with him. And I've really got to grips with it, and so I'm really enjoying the experience. The second reason I'm really excited is I set myself a bit of a goal to surpass 250 YouTube subscribers by the end of 2016, which I managed to do today. So thank you very much, guys, for all your continued support. I'm loving the conversation that's going on both on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. So continue that. I'm really enjoying talking to you guys and hearing your thoughts on libraries, composition, DAWs, hardware, the lot. So that's great, that's really good stuff. So the idea behind this video is to basically give you a walkthrough of the score. So in a second I'm going to play through the entire track, open up parts of the score so you can see it playing in real time, and then kind of go into different patches, talk about the patches that I've used, and kind of the psychology behind the composition. So the composition is called One Day. And it's written for a short kind of documentary style film focusing on mental health. So it is an emotional cue, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. I will play it for you now, and then we'll go through it. So enjoy. Okay, guys, so welcome back. That was the short cue. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And now I'm going to basically try and talk you through the composition in terms of how I put it together and the kind of philosophy behind it, I suppose. So, instrumentation wise, I will run through the patches as well. It's very similar to Blanket. You know, One Day was kind of a follow on from Blanket in the sense that the films were being made at kind of the same time. And they've got, I don't want to say a similar vibe because that would be wrong, but in terms of the way that the score has been put together, they are fairly similar in terms of the actual arrangement. So, or the orchestra, the instrumentation. Sorry, I should say. So, again, it's the same kind of. We've got that background and foreground thing going on. So, in terms of the soloists, I've got the Tinagro Legato patch from Cinesamples dealing with the cello. Then we've got Quantum Leap solo violin dealing with the violins, and then I'm actually using Woodwind's. We've got a clarinet combi patch from which actually the Native Instruments built-in Contact patch is actually part of the library that you get alongside Contact when you buy it, and I thought it worked really well. So and of course pianos. So those are kind of my solo to the front instruments, if you like, and then I've got the same type of thing as Blanket in terms of the big string patches that kind of hug those centralized instruments, if that makes sense. So, if I bring in the strings on their own, so you can hear that what I'm talking about in terms of the sound of those, they've got quite a big. It's quite a grandiose sound, if you like, I suppose, in the sense of there's a lot of reverb applied to it, and it's really chucked back in the room. They should be coming in now. Missing that note there, that E, it doesn't matter. Library I'm using is the libraries I'm using. Evo Grid is playing solo here right now. That's dealing with the bulk of the emotion. Then we've got Albion, 1 from Spitfire, Metropolis Arc from Orchestra tools, dealing with the low end, doubling really. On that bit of a slowdown, I will go into that. So it's got that high feel to it in the strings, whereas the solo instruments, the solo parts, pianos are a little back. There's some interesting stuff happening with the pianos, but the violins and the cello. A lot more in your face. So that's the idea behind the composition, is that we've got it's the same thing that I've been going with for a while, in the sense that background and foreground, with the strings almost acting like pads, to give to deal with a lot of the chord changes, and drive the track and drive the emotion, whereas the solo instruments are kind of, they're hitting home the story of the characters. I hope you'll get to see the film. At the moment, it's heading off to the festivals. I'm not too sure if we're going for a public release, but if there's ever a link available, I'll put a card up on YouTube or something so you can see it in context with the film. So that was the kind of those were sort of the Tinagro, the Quantum Leap solo violin, and the factory clarinets, which I thought worked really well. Together basically. Piano wise, the whole composition started with a piano. So I had this kind of sus chords idea with the E sus2, D sus2, E sus2, and they went for a C major 7th. And I had this. wanted to go for that kind of thing. That was the idea behind it, you know, but I arped it, so Emotional Pianos has got almost like we can just hold down block chords and it arpeggiates it, instead of me having to play it. I could just play it in, and it gave it like a mechanical edge to it. You know, the film jumps around, it talks about structure of life and all sorts of different emotions, so I wanted some pianos that were a little looser and some that were a little tighter, hence the reason for using an arpeggiator, which is pretty much to the grid. Jazzy piano. You know, a little louder. Frozen piano. And then a hybrid 2 sad piano. Which has got that really sharp sound to it, which I like. So I used those. You can see here, you know, these are pianos here in this section, and some of it's doubled. So these sections, for instance, you might have the arp, but then you've got just chords underneath that actually play. So if we play just the arp part here, that's going to actually be playing the rhythmic. Whereas this piano is actually going to be kind of almost block sustained chords. Then more of a bass note with the frozen. Really quiet. Really quiet. Then our hybrid 2 sad piano, which is kind of doing these. Alongside the clarinet, it gives like a moves you through the track. So you've got all these different elements working with each other. So those pianos are actually when this line comes in. Dun 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 dun. You know, that's what the hybrid 2 stuff will be doing there. If I play it all in. So we got the hybrid 2. Ding 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 ding. That's the soft pianos. You know, alongside the cello parts. So it's just adding interest and adding different parts to the tracks that interested me with having lots of different pianos. You know, I enjoy that kind of sound to the tracks without question. So that was the idea with it, really. It started with the piano, obviously these, and then it continued on throughout the track, and it just built and developed as these tracks do. I had quite an interesting idea with the pizzicatos that come in, where you've got this kind of again, it's the same sort of idea. Why have I got my? There we go. You know, but I basically have added a delay. If I take you over to the mixer here, I'll show you what I mean. I've added a delay to the whole thing. So here we've got our pizzicato notes, which is from Spitfire's Albion, and I basically just added an AU delay from part of Apple, part of Logic essentially, but it's within VE Pro. As I talked in other videos, you can add these kind of effects to it. So if I actually turn that off. And come back into Logic here and play you the section without. Then turn it on. just adds more interest. Instead of just dung 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 dung, you've got more of a dung 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 digger dung 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 dung. Just adds more interest to the track. I thought it made it more interesting when that section's actually, that main section's playing. This bit here is both the Tinagro cello and the violins together, playing a counter melody essentially. And going apart again. Unison. And apart again. The violin ending that section into the next part. Incidentally, I really love both of those libraries. I have sort of talked about them a lot. I think the violins sound fantastic. Recorded really well at Remote Control Productions, Hans Zimmer Studio, probably going back all 5-6 years now. Right into the end here. You know, even at the dusty end, it sounds good, as they like. So that's a library that I like a lot. Definitely without question. The sound design kind of part of it. Actually, no, I'll show you the winds as well. So I'll show you the solo. I'll show you these as well on their own. So again, this is the Contact. This is the Contact factory library that they give you. Woodwinds Contact. So it's just the VSL Woodwinds combi, and it basically sounds like this. I thought it was really nice. It was a bit dry. I had to treat it a little bit, add a fair bit of reverb to it, just to kind of. I wanted to keep it close, as I said. My ethos of keeping those sort of solo instruments close, but it was a little too close for my liking, so I chucked it away out of the room a little bit. Sound design. Now, it's more to just add basses to the track, so or weird sounds. So this middle section here. Just bring this in. No, Eastern Air, it just gives it like a pulsating kind of madness feel to it, which I wanted, and these support the pianos as well. I'll bring it all in. So that's just Evolved Mutations, which is quite an old library, living in Contact, alongside the pianos. One of my favourite bits of the track is the very, very end. And one thing I kind of messed around with, you might notice here, all through the track, the tempo changes. And it's something that I kind of neglected before. You know, if you think of an actual performance going on, the musicians are going to they're going to speed up and they're going to slow down. It's unnatural to just play to the beat exactly 100% all of the time. And I think we kind of forget when we're writing in our DAWs, we set our tempos, and you may kind of change them from time to time, but they're quite rigid the way you set the track. And I think when you're writing an emotional piece, it's important to have those parts to speed up and slow down. you know, if we play this here. Starting to slow now. And speed up. It gives the audience or the listener time to kind of breathe. You know, I feel anyway. I mean, if we just basically bring in the strings for this part. Let's just solo out the emotional part. I will talk about the other libraries I'm using for the strings as well, because I haven't yet. But this end part, if I just play this solo on its own, we've got our tempo changes here. So let's play from here, just so we hear the whole lot. And the piano as well. That part there just gives the audience, to me anyway, in my mind, it gives you time to almost breathe. You know, that actually marks almost the end of the film and the final resolve. So in context with the picture, it perhaps makes a little more sense, but I think it makes a bit more of a statement. Not only did we chuck that chord in there at the end, but it kind of makes it prepares the listener for what's coming, for something that's coming next that they perhaps weren't expecting, and I think it works really, really well. So try to add some more movement in your tempos. I'd say there's something that I kind of did and then neglected to do and then did again, but now I'm starting to do it again. It's a lot more interesting. So coming back to the strings. The other libraries I've got going on, let's actually bring this up. Let's bring up the strings native instruments. So I'm using the Evo Grid library here because, like I said, I'm a little addicted to it. That's the core of the emotive qualities in the strings. Then we've got, again, so that's from Spitfire Audio, the Evo Grid, part of their producer portfolio. Then we've got Albion 1. I'm just using an ensemble patch for long string sustained arco notes, mainly in the basses, and then we're using a Legato low strings from Metropolis from Orchestral Tools. Then again, we've got our pizzicato patch from Spitfire, which just deals with the part of the film where the character's brain was perhaps a little more active. So I tried to put in that whole you know, that kind of thing with the pizzicatos. They don't repeat again. But in the composition, if we open this up, this here is your main. Let's just move that out of the way so you can see. This is your main block chord progression, if you like, of the emotive. If I actually open up the Metropolis Arc stuff, it's just we go quite high here in the basses, but it's mainly bass notes that actually almost work in unison together. So if we were looking at this from a kind of a player point of view, technically speaking, there are too many players in the room, but I don't care. We're writing for samples. I needed a little more bass and definition in the bottom end of my strings, so I went for it basically, and I'm not worried about it. Don't worry about that, by the way, guys. If you're ever writing and you think at uni, I came out there and sort of thought, well, I can't be doing this with the patch because it's wrong. There's too many players. You'd have a massive string orchestra. Well, don't worry about it. Just you're writing for samples in this circumstance, so you need to get it sounding as good as possible, and that's the main aim. Anyway, I'm rambling there. So yeah, that kind of, I believe, covers the majority of the track. I've gone through a couple of times the Tina Grow library. I highlight again how good that is. Definitely one of my go-to favourite libraries. She's a very expressive player, and Cinesamples are just amazing at sampling. So you get that come across in the performance with the library itself. It's a very cutting library as well. That's one thing I'd say about all these libraries I've used actually for the for the solo-ness of the track. It's they all cut through very well, which is very important. Maybe that's the way I've mixed it, mucking around with the reverberations. Each track has basically its own master bus. So all of these have been treated both EQ, compression, a lot of compression actually on the strings, on all the instruments. And those sorts of things. So obviously the soloists haven't got as much reverberation on as the strings, as I talk with the foreground and the background. So maybe that's something to do with it as well. But I found they mixed very well and they worked very well. So yeah, that's my kind of brief run through for you guys, if you like, in Logic Pro X. Really enjoying using it, and I'm hoping to put up a lot more videos. I've got a little more time coming away soon, so I'm going to focus on kind of going through. I'm actually working on a little bit more of an epic trailer track at the moment, which I want to demo for you guys. It's a difficult one because I started it in Pro Tools, so I need to migrate it across because where my libraries are no longer work, so that's going to be a bit of a headache. But I'm going to do it and show it to you because it's a lot different. In terms of musical style to what I've been writing to this point. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I hope it was useful in some way. Please do comment if you want to know anything more about perhaps this track or a process I've gone through. You know, hit me with it, and I'll try and answer your questions as best as possible. And I look forward to seeing you very much in the next video. Okay, guys, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.